Greetings, everyone. This is the Hipster Snek with another awesome episode of the Tomodachi Bros podcast. With me tonight is Master Dutaku.
I am kind of relieved now that I'm done with Endwalker.
I don't blame you. There's some bits in there that really could have been done better. But that's neither here nor there. Relief aside, you know what? No, relief is a good word for it, because we're going to chill out this week. We are going to talk about another anime genre breakdown and talk about some of our favorites. This week, we're doing slice of life anime. And honestly, there's a lot to pick from. Like, a lot to pick from. Master Itaku, why don't you lead us off on this episode? What's one anime that pops into your head when you hear slice of life?
I mean, yeah, you gotta go with Hasumanga Tayo.
Ah, a classic.
I was never a huge fan of Yotsubato. I know people think that it's it's GOAT because funny 4chan girl, but I don't know. I thought that Azumanga was better.
I agree, honestly. Azumanga Daioh is just a good series from start to finish. And it has this energy to it where it's simultaneously very kinetic and yet also very down to earth. And it's kind of hard to even quantify. Because they're just doing regular high school girl stuff. And the only real strange member of their class is that they have Chio. And she ended up skipping a few grades. So she's much younger than the main cast. But that's as quirky as it gets. It stays very grounded, all told. And
is that what you call it?
It doesn't go. Zany stuff does happen, but it's all very much in that. I don't even know how to describe it. It's realistic. It could, theoretically happen. There wasn't anything happening in Azumanga that was completely unbelievable. Was it silly at times? Yes. But comparatively speaking, everyone had realistic designs. There was no neon hair. It was all very down to earth.
No, I guess you're right.
And it was just this really fun series because everyone had a distinct personality and everyone bounced off each other very organically. I think my favorite was always Yomi because she tried to be the straight woman, even though she was a little bit of an idiot too.
Wow. See, I always thought that, I would have pegged you for being a Sakaki, man.
She is a close second. Sakaki is a close number 2. That is very fair to say. You know me well. There is no doubt about that.
I mean, honestly, the best character in that is, and probably always will be, Osaka.
It has to be. I've actually been referencing her in our the Mega Man Battle Network Let's Play, because there's this one NPC sprite that shows up in every single Battle Network game, and it is a dead ringer for Osaka.
Mm-hmm.
And did they ever say what her actual name is, or did they just immediately start calling her Osaka?
They do. I want to say they I know they do in the very first
the very first episode, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, for the rest of the series, she's just Osaka.
Her name is... Oh, okay. Are you ready for this?
All right, fire away.
All right. Her actual name is Ayumu Kasuga, but she's just known as Osaka.
That's funny to me.
Yeah, so...
she'll always be Osaka. And honestly, that was one of the early ADV dubs, wasn't it?
Honestly, I know that the ADV dub is really well liked. Honestly, I just know it for the comic. I read the comic when I was a wee little baggy weeaboo, and so I just know it for the comic. I never really... I think the most I saw was of clips, especially of the, hello everyone, I'm fine. How are you? Thank you.
Yep.
If you know, you know.
That moment is great and is one of the few fantastical moments of the series. I do have the anime on DVD, and so...
Well, it's literally... that bit, if I remember right, is literally Osaka daydreaming.
Yeah, so she's just spacing out, and she has a couple moments like that where she just kind of trails off into La La Land. Like, there's a bit where Chio says, like, "Oh, when I go to college, I want to go study abroad in America so I can learn English." And Osaka's like, "Huh, I wonder what that would be like." And it shows you what's going on in her head, where Osaka gets off the plane, is somewhere just randomly in America, and everyone there is just a really tiny Chio. There's like just hundreds of little Chios everywhere. And she's like, "Yeah, that must be what America is like."
Narrator, it is not, in fact, what America is like.
And there's a bit I remember really distinctly, because I remember I watched this with my cousin at one point, and this scene drove her nuts, because Osaka has this moment where she's like, "There's an escalator and there's an elevator, but they're different things that basically do the same thing. So I constantly get them confused." And she has like this 5-minute bit of trying to remember which one is the escalator and which one's the elevator. And Chio is just standing there, stone-faced, like trying not to interject and tell her which one is which. Osaka is a jewel. Must protect.
She is.
Must protect. And speaking of the ADV dubs, one that I saw recently for the first time, actually, I watched the series pretty much front to back in like a week, was Cromartie High. And like every other Tomo bro was like, "Oh, dude, you haven't seen that yet? Like, get with the program." And I'm like, I didn't know. But it's so good. I just saw this random clip out of context, which was like the first 30 seconds of the series. And it was one of the most hysterical bits I think I've ever seen. I was like, I have to watch this now. So I did. I did not regret a minute of it. So, unlike Azumanga Daioh, where it's like an average high school with average girls doing average high school girl things, Cromartie High is almost the opposite. It's a bunch of high school boys who are sent to a school specifically for idiots and delinquents. And all of them are like trying to have this tough guy one-upmanship contest, and this constantly like jockeying for like who's the strongest or who's the toughest or who's the one to be the king of the pile. And like, the show goes so crazy in the first 30 seconds. It just stays at that energy for the entire run. I was blown away.
The bit where they actually are like trying to prove like how the main character is going to be. He basically is like, I have to be the leader because he's like the one normal person in the school. And so he actually is like, okay, I know. And so they're all like, oh yeah, this is what I did. And he actually, he's basically like, yeah, I'm going to do, I did something so awful. None of you guys will be able to, top it. And in the show, he goes, "But if you want to know what it is, read the comic." And so I actually read the comic, and I got to say, it is pretty darn evil. If you want, I will spoil it.
Yeah, go ahead and spoil it, because like it doesn't actually. They don't even talk about it in the anime. They completely gloss over it.
Okay. Yeah, because what he does is apparently they were doing one of those novelty, like, oh, this is going to be the Guinness World, record, but it was going to be for dominoes knocked over in a single sitting, in a single attempt.
Right.
And so they were like setting up for like months and months and months, and he actually was part of this. And so at about halfway through, he's like, at first I was really, really into it, but about halfway through, I was like, I'm really not into it. This is really tedious and really, really hard, because you have to be very careful about the entire thing. And so I decided on the very last domino, I was going to super glue the end, and so it wouldn't knock over, so they wouldn't get the record. And all the other boys are like just in awe of how just conniving this was. And yeah, I mean, ordinarily Kanayama, the main character, is actually a really nice guy. It's just, in that one instance, he did something really, really awful.
He just lost his patience with it, yeah. And then, like, the very start of the anime, he's writing a letter to his mom, and he's like, "Let me tell you, I just got to Cromartie High, and frankly, everyone here terrifies me." And it just kind of goes from there, and everyone's just like, "Oh, Kamiyama, he's like this level-headed guy. So if we need to ask him for advice or ideas, we just go to him." And he kind of becomes like the de facto leader. But the thing is, he's an idiot too. So they keep.
He's the least idiotic.
Yeah,
yes.
He's the best put together idiot, but he's still an idiot. And he's still just. Guys, no, like maybe we shouldn't do the obvious idiot thing, but they, of course, continue to do the obvious idiot thing, because these guys are morons.
Did you ever see the bit with Mekazawa?
Yes,
he showed up.
Mekazawa is amazing, and he's one of the students in one of the other classes of Kamiyama, but they start talking about Mekazawa, and they go in, and he's just this little robot guy with a really deep voice. And everyone's just like, "Oh my God, he's so cool. And he has such a really cool voice too." And he's just like, "Guys." Really? And
the entire time, Kanayama is trying to hint to the others that he's a robot, and he never can.
Yeah, and every time it comes up, like, Kamiyama starts to figure it out, and then usually something distracts him, and he's like, "Wait, what was I thinking about again? That probably wasn't important anyway."
All right. There's so many good bits in that, like the fact that they basically have super muscular Freddie Mercury as one of their classmates.
Yeah, that's just Freddie, and he's just there alongside the gorilla. The gorilla is just one of their classmates, and they accept this at face value. It's not that odd to them.
Well, actually, it's really funny, because the gorilla actually is one of the better put together of their classmates.
Yes.
As I recall, he later gets a part-time job, a convenience store even. So,
yep. And on top of that, there's one whole episode wherein one of them overhears someone else humming a song, and he's like, "Dude, that's a super catchy song. What's the name of it?" So he goes to his class, and he's like, "Guys, I heard this song, and I don't know what the name of the song is, but if I hum it, can you guys tell me what the name of the song is?" They spend 30 minutes in this episode with them humming the song over and over again. And every time Kamiyama tries to hum the song, he gets it wrong and is humming a completely different song. And they go on and on and on trying to figure out the song. At the very end, Kamiyama hears Mekazawa humming it. And he's like, "Oh, that's a good song." And then Mekazawa's like, "Yeah, I know, right?" And then Kamiyama's like, "Oh my God, I've put myself in the wall. I can't ask him what the name of the song is, because then I'll look like an idiot." And then the episode just ends, and he's like, Now we'll never know. The episode just ends.
And isn't it just the theme song for the show?
It's the theme song of the show, yes. they're humming the instrumental, actually, yes.
Yeah, it's actually a really good song. It's actually very, very, very melancholy, because the entire thing is about how this guy is down on his luck, but he has the love of his life, and he's like, I want to repay you, but I don't have anything to repay you with. It's very sad.
Yep,
but really good.
No, it is. No, it's, and I love that show. I was super blown away.
I am honestly surprised you did not bring up Nichijou, though.
No, I fully plan to. And Nichijou is also really fantastic. Everyday life of high school girls is just hilarious, both in the meta sense and in the fact that the show is just really, really good.
Also the fact we're never going to get a season 2, unfortunately.
Because they spent all of the animation budget and then some.
Oh, yeah, it basically bankrupted that studio. I forget which studio it was. It was
let me
one
check.
Of the big ones. But yeah, it basically, the fact that they put so much money into it, and it's really beautiful animation. There's this one bit where basically one of the girl's older sisters shows up and not only kidnaps her, but is basically harassing her in this bear lucha mask for the entire day. And the entire time she's like, please just go away, strange genie. I don't know what I did. And she's doing all these really elaborate gesticulations with her hands. And it's really well done.
It is. A Kyoto Animation.
Yes, it's KyoAni. They are also the people who did Arahi, another of your favorite shows, there, Professor.
So, everyone, let's briefly touch on this. I didn't like Haruhi. I did not. It didn't really do anything all that interesting or compelling. The characters were just not likable. Some of the memes that came out of it were relatively funny. Around the same time that came out was when Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann was first on TV. So there was a whole bunch of memes that Viral was trying to kill Haruhi, but because it's Viral and everything he does ends in failure, she would always win. Some of the memes that came out of that were pretty good.
The fact that she was also God, kind of helped too.
Yes. And it's just, I didn't like it. I didn't like any of the characters. And by the end of it, when it finally got to the weird pseudo season where it was the same episode over and over again, people started complaining to me. It's it went downhill. It's it was never uphill. I can't sympathize because I never liked it.
I mean, I did. Honestly, I liked it as an idea, but yeah, I can understand. It's one of those things where it's I honestly feel like there's the glimmer of there. Basically, yeah, the entire series hints at this deeper, series of conspiracies, a la Unknown Armies, where it's if we ever let Haruhi in on the fact that there is this 17-car pileup of aliens and time travelers and psychics and stuff, all trying to figure out what her deal is, she could theoretically end the universe. So we cannot let her. And the entire thing is she wants to actually find something supernatural. But yeah, so it basically boils down to a bunch of high schoolers LARPing and being snippy with each other. And yeah, I can understand that that's not really your cup of tea.
I saw glimmers of good ideas, but in any situation, I think I talked about this way back in episode 0. And I was the characters are what's going to make or break a series for me, and just none of them none of them had any kind of lasting impact on me. Hard pass for the Snek on this one.
I mean, I thought that the first episode, honestly, if they had just continued having that sort of thing where they were like doing basically really, really crappy home movies and having the director sexually harass the heroine, would have been really, really funny in and of itself. And honestly, and that may have been just me, going, yeah, Mikuru is a cute.
That's fair. That's fair. Some of the memes that came from her, like, Mikuru beam moment were pretty funny, actually.
Yes.
That's about the nicest thing I can manage.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, I mean...
we got to do something more recent than that, though. I can hear the Zoomers going, "Oh, Haruhi, that's so old."
My grandma watched that.
I liked it. Says Granny.
Says grandmother grand who was 31.
I like it. I like Robotech.
Oh, so she's 36 then.
Yes.
Fair enough. Okay, I have a weird one, and this is like tangentially related, so this is kind of thematic. Is I watched almost all of Lucky Star, and I fell off. Like,
dude, that was literally like a year later. That's not much more recent.
I know. I'm not going for recent. I'm going for relevant. Because it was done by the same studio who did Haruhi, and like so they did the whole like dance musical number and all that. Like that became like such the in thing to do at that time that honestly, like I got really tired of it really fast. The thing is, like, it's a 26 episode series, and I was like watching it this whole time, kind of like. Yeah, there's a couple of good jokes in there every now and then. And like there's one bit at the end that they started doing where they have this lolly character who's like trying really hard to fit the cute stereotype, but the truth is she was just like this really annoying girl boss character who was just bossing the dude on the show around. And there's this bit where she sends him off into the middle of nowhere, and I can't even remember what it was he was after, but eventually he actually found it and came back alive after like getting mauled by a bear, and he was just like, I'm gonna kill you like right now with my bare hands. And like that was like episode 22 or 23 out of 26, and I was just like, I'm good. I don't really care anymore. And honestly, like the only bit from the show I remember is the weird not Ditaku character, Kanata. You get to see her dad, and he gets a really bad cold, and he's like, oh, it would be bad if I got other people sick. And he does the Kamen Rider Henshin pose from Kamen Rider Super 1, and just manifests like these big thick glasses and a big cold mask, and he's like, ha, Henshin complete. And like that's the only joke in the entire show I really remember anymore. I'm like, I almost watched the whole thing and it had virtually no impact on me. I don't know what that says.
Oof, I don't know how to feel about you saying that I'm Kanata.
You kind of are. The boyish trash talker who's like constantly hitting on other girls and be like, haha, that makes you gay.
Okay, now you're going to give people the wrong impression that I go around hitting on other dudes, going, no, that is not a thing I do, ladies and gentlemen.
I meant that you hit on girls in the same fashion that Kanata hits on girls. Oh, and you know what? That does remind me of one other bit. Like she was talking. They're talking about password security for like their email accounts, and they're like, oh, well, I don't really know what would make a safe password. And I was like, oh, it's easy. I use Roman characters. So like a Japanese person would have a hard time guessing it. So I just wrote out the sentence, I like girls with glasses. The other girls are like, we're in public. People can hear you. That part is pretty funny. Like, I guess it left something of an impact on me.
No, I think that is pretty good. I didn't remember that one. Honestly, the one bit of that I did remember was when Kanata was playing PSO2, and she's like, I'm just, I could do my summer homework, or I could play online. It's like, oh, look, my teacher's online. Why aren't you doing your homework? I'm going to ignore her.
Oh God, I remember that bit. Yes.
So,
yeah.
Okay, so
there were some funny
really,
bits. Just it's been lost to memory for the most part.
Lost to the sands of time.
Yeah.
I will be the first to admit, I do not really watch slice of life. There are a few that, as I said, I know. Honestly, the most recent one I saw isn't really a slice of life so much as a romance show. The You Like Me, Not Your Daughter.
Oh, yes.
Which honestly, I don't know if that was more of a slice of life or more romance, but it's very, very grounded.
I'd say you could argue either way.
Where it's a woman in her mid-30s who basically adopted her niece.
Yeah, let's say it would have been her niece.
Yes, and so because her younger sister passed away in an accident, and so basically she's the single working mom who's trying to make do for her daughter, and then the literal boy next door who basically has been growing up with her niece turned daughter, basically who just, I want to say, graduated from college.
Yeah.
So, it's not like he's like, I'm 13 and I'm hitting on the older girls. Although, I mean, that probably would have been funny too.
Yeah, but then they could not have seriously followed up on the romance plot line if that was the case. That would be more just like a goofy comedy kind of thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so he basically actually is trying to, court her, and the entire time she's like, but I'm too old for you. And it's like, yeah, okay.
Yes, and the best part is that's chapter 1. He literally comes out of the gate and is just like, I am madly in love with you. I have been madly in love with you. This is not some stupid little kid with a crush. I'm serious about this. Like, that's chapter 1. And so many of these rom-coms, they drag it out as long as humanly possible before they finally get around to saying something. But you know what? This series is just like, no, we are getting straight to the point, and this is where the relationship is going to be seen from the reader's perspective going forward. And we'll fill in any past instances as they're relevant to the story. So it's,
my goddess, love Hina. Basically any rom-com, popular rom-com anime.
Yeah, basically.
Take note. So yeah.
No, it comes out of the gate. They introduce the premise. They explain what's going on. They set up the situation. They explain the conflict. They get into the point of the story. I think the only one that I can think of that does something similar and kind of drags it out longer than necessary, but does it well, would be Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out. And the difference there is because the characters' personalities is that they're supposed to kind of grate on each other, and Uzaki's a huge troll, basically fundamentally being what would happen if Chitaku was a girl. And, she is just
so much shade coming my way.
But am I wrong, Ditaku? Am I incorrect in this assessment?
No, I guess not.
So, the whole point is that she's deliberately supposed to rib him, and then over time he kind of learns how to irritate her. But then they kind of have it's where this is just in fun. There's no actual malice involved in any of this, and there's also kind of this vibe that I got where it seems like because of the manga's early popularity, the author, like in an interview, said something along the lines of, "Oh, I was pretty confident that, because of the strong initial reception, that there could be an anime. But if there's an anime, you kind of have to play your cards close to your chest. You don't want to go crazy and like have a bunch of like really dirty jokes that you wouldn't be allowed to get away with on TV." But he's like, "Oh, but no one will care. Like, they're going to do one season and we're going to be done. And that's only going to be a few manga volumes in." So then he gets to this point. He's like, "Okay, the anime's over. I can do whatever I want." And he starts doing a lot of dirty jokes. Like, a lot. And then he's like, my editor comes in one day and he's like, "Good news. They're doing season 2. And he was like, "Wait, what? They're doing season 2? And he was actually completely caught off guard because of it.
This is what we call suffering from success.
Yes. So I don't know if season 2 is out yet or not. Watch it subtitled, because honestly, Funimation did a terrible job with the dub. And that's funny coming from me, because I'm usually like the hard dub guy of the Tomodachi Bros. But like, holy crap, they did a really bad job with it. Watch the subtitled version; it's much
honestly, Funimation. I don't know. Maybe it was just me and my babby years, but Funimation has gotten really downhill.
No, they objectively have. They used to be, the team to use, and now they're the team to not use under any circumstances, because ultimately they're just going to screw it up. That's a talk for another day. We're trying to keep things on a generally positive beat. Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out is really, really good. I have been reading the manga. I watched the first season of the anime, of course. And, again, like I said, they do that slow burn romance thing, but that's not really the focus of the story. So I think it works, because it's really about, like, initially the foundations of a friendship and coming kind of out of an unusual place. And again, Uzaki is this really big, extroverted personality, and she likes being the center of attention. And the guy, and I can't remember the guy's name, because honestly, he takes a while to develop a personality, to be honest. But he's the more introverted. He's a sporty guy, but he doesn't like showing off. He's not really a bragging type. But he's thoughtful, but also he's very quiet. And that's kind of part of the reason why Uzaki wants to provoke him so much, is just to be like, hey, I'm going to make this quiet guy like get mad and start yelling or something. And the fact that he doesn't just makes her want to do it more. So you get a really good character chemistry. I think it works super well. No, so I recommend that one. Let's see, in a related vein, I would say one of my current favorites, and I guess you could argue it's slice of life, I think that's a fair assessment, is Plus Sized Elf, which has started its second series. I don't know what you call it in the manga sense in this case, because there was Plus Sized Elf, which was supposed to end, I want to say volume, I forget which number it is. Point is, it was supposed to have ended already, but it actually got a huge positive reception, both in the English-speaking world and in Japan. And so the author, who's actually a lady, fun fact, I actually follow her Twitter, and she's really funny because she's a troll. They started Plus Size Elf Second Course, which, as of this recording, just dropped its second volume as of February 2024. And basically the whole idea is there's the human world and there's the world of monsters. And there are gates periodically dotted across the earth. And the thing with these gates is if you cross from one side to the other, the gate remembers how much went through, not how many went through. So if you cross over, you have to come back. When you go back to the world you originated from, you have to be the same weight. So this elf, Elfuda, goes through the gate into the human world because, as she explains it, the elven diet is vegetarian. So it's mostly leafy greens, it's a very bland kind of palate. You don't get a whole lot of variety. And she discovers French fries. And she is like, this is the most perfect food to ever exist. It's vegetarian, but it actually tastes like something. And she falls in love with French fries and she gains a whole bunch of weight. And the main character is a human, Nae, who works as a masseuse. And he ends up meeting Elfuda and being like, okay, look, if you want to go back to your world, you got to kick your bad habits and you got to stop living your life this way. So he's like, this whole time, he's trying really hard to be this really kind, supportive guy. He's not actually like hitting on the girls. He's genuinely trying to be their friend. Now, the girls are definitely hitting on him. Of that, there is no doubt. Because even his own boss is a curvy lady who is constantly like, oh, we should go drinking after work. And he's like, that's inappropriate for a superior and a subordinate. And she's like, no, you're no fun.
And she does constantly.
And things get really out of hand. Oh, yeah. Like every chance she gets constantly. To say nothing of the fact that there's not just elves. Like you have Elfuda, who is an elf, and her aunt shows up at one point, and her aunt's addicted to ice cream. And there's Koroeda, who is a dark elf, and she works as a retail store, a convenience store, rather. I used the wrong word there. She works at a convenience store and has a really stressful job, so she stress eats. So she's gained a whole bunch of weight, too. And then you start like meeting all these other characters, and each one has their own bad habits, and they're trying to kick them, but they're struggling against them. There's, you get the Oni girl Olga, and you get the orc girl Oku, because all their names are supposed to be plays on what species they are. And there is one special exception, Kobe the Kobold. That's not her actual name. In Japanese, she was Hobi the Hobbit. The problem is, Hobbit is a copyrighted term owned in the West by the Tolkien Foundation. So they couldn't use it. So she became a kobold. And that's why she's kind of just this really nondescript character. And they try kind of not to draw too much attention to what she actually is. So, yeah, fun in translation. International copyright law, people, it sucks.
Is she the little one who pretends to be a little girl?
Yes. And she's always constantly hanging around the dragon girl.
Oh, I don't think I've seen her yet then.
They show up a little bit later. They showed up relatively late in the first series. There are some of the last ones to show up. And one of the interesting ones, there's this Baku girl who just kind of harasses people from a distance, because her whole thing is Bakus eat dreams. And the thing is, she's been eating a lot because the world of humans is apparently much more densely populated than the world of monsters. So she has a lot more to pick from. So she does this bit where she transports them all into an alternate universe where they are in a high school setting and they're all jockeying to like become the girlfriend of Nae. And it's like the one time that it actually kind of becomes a rom-com, and it only lasts for the one chapter. It's weird. I can't help but feel that maybe the author was like kind of dropping a lure and being like, is this something you guys want? Mm-hmm. You guys want to see the romance angle? Is that something you guys might want to see? Because here's an interesting bit of news. Is like, as of the date of this recording in the near future, we're getting an anime adaptation. So that's going to be exciting. They're definitely going to have to censor some bits. Because according to the author, she really, really enjoys drawing big girls, because apparently by her own admission, she herself is a big girl. So yeah, there is some toplessness in this manga. Please, viewer discretion is advised, and all that CYA crap.
He says
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, actually. There's a lot of toplessness and a few butt shots, and they don't show anything indecent. It never goes into H territory. It doesn't do that, but it's mostly for comedy and a little bit of fan service, or a bit fan service, because it does happen a lot. but a lot of the times it is played for comedy, so it's not trying to be raunchy, is what I'm saying. And I don't know, it's this really interesting, wholesome friendship story. All the while, it peppers in some like, oh, here are some exercises you can do, and here are some dietary tips that you can consider. It's very interesting. It's actually kind of a trend recently in the past like 5-8 years. There's been like a whole bunch of fitness manga really getting popular, like How Heavy Are the Dumbbells That You Lift being another example.
That one's actually really funny because the author actually he did a fighting manga prior to that. And one of the teachers, I want to say, actually is a little sister to one of the characters in his fighting manga.
Yeah, because I think she mentions her older brother, and you never see him on screen in How Heavy Are the Dumbbells That You Lift. But it's very clearly supposed to be a reference to him. And that's just a fun series, because not only is it supposed to be like a weight loss, workout, health kind of manga, there's a lot of great comedy and character interactions in it. The main girl, Hibiki, is hysterical, and the whole thing is like she apparently has like limitless untapped potential. Like if she really exerted herself, she would be like the female Saitama, but she's super lazy and unmotivated. She really just starts crushing on the lead dude. But the thing with him is like he looks like just like a normal dude in a tracksuit until he flexes his muscles, in which case he like swells and balloons into this muscle freak.
Saying Machio is not ordinary.
No, he looks it at first, but don't let that deceive you. The funny thing is, his head and face stay exactly the same, but his body just becomes like this Cho Aniki-esque like statue of a body. He's just like, yes, you too can look like this, and I'm like, normal people would never look like that, Machio.
I'm sorry. I mean, It was as cool as it would be to be, like a completely ripped, jacked, Baki style, Olympic god. It's not going to ever happen.
No, that is unrealistic expectations to foist on oneself.
That's unrealistic expectations. Body shaming. I'm sorry that I'm not going to be a Baki character. I mean, as cool as it would be, I'm never going to get that ripped.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. That does not. You do not even look like a Marvel character unless you're severely dehydrated. Yeah, that's actually not healthy. Fun health fact of the podcast. If you look like Chris Hemsworth or Chris Evans in a Marvel film, it's because you're severely dehydrated and you need to drink water. Healthy people do not look like that.
No. Yeah, if you actually want to be like a actual real like huge strongman bodybuilder, there's a reason why you look at old strongmen. They basically look like your fat uncle.
Yep, it's a stout strong.
Yeah, and I mean those dudes could lift huge amounts of weight. But I mean, you wouldn't think it just from an aesthetic point, basically.
Yeah, bodybuilding and like training for muscle strength are very different, fundamentally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like you associate, oh, well, he must be strong because he looks like that. But that's not. Oftentimes, reality is more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've run my well dry. How about you, Itaku-san?
I mean, the only other one I have is Plustic Nason, and I'm not sure that, I would recommend that. It's very weird. It's about a plastic model club at a high school, and basically all of the characters enjoy making various different plastic models, and they differentiate between the characters because they actually have these little plastic models like on their heads, like a hat. And it did actually get its own anime, It's actually on YouTube. It's only a half an hour long, but it is very, very funny. I've been trying to get the other Tomo Bros to watch it. I have not been successful, really, but we'll see.
I started it. I need to finish it, but I am a little ways into it.
It is only a half an hour long.
But I am not very bright and easily distracted. I will rectify this, though, I promise.
Okay, but I mean, that honestly, I really wish that I could tell you, like, be like, oh, this is like Laid Back Camp or any of these other shows. Like, I'm aware of them, but it's never like something that I will ever actually watch. So I'm kind of on the back foot here.
No, I mean, honestly, I think we've already prattled off a goodly number of really good choices. But the thing with the slice of life genre is it can be done well, but for the most part, you really got to lean into the comedy and the characters. In fact, let's kind of do a genre breakdown here, where it's like, if your show has a situation that's too boring or too true to life, you're going to have a show that's relatively dull. That was honestly kind of what happened with Lucky Star, where it looked very bright and very pastelish, but the actual comedy bits were relatively downplayed. Now, Cromartie was like very silly, very zany. There's space aliens and there's tanks. Like, it never really gets into being action, and it's kind of like the action genre, because that's just not what happens, and they're very clearly trying not to animate the characters very much, which is part of the joke, is they were trying not to like animate them very much. There's like one character who every time you see him, he's a static image except for his lips, and his hair like flips back and forth as he's talking, and that's literally all the animation he gets in the entire series. Like, they're very heavily leaning into this world. This is silly and it's zany and it's full of weird stuff, but it's built on the conventions of something that could kind of, sort of, plausibly happen, insofar as most of the things that happen couldn't. But like, if your show is again too true to life, you run making a boring iteration of the genre. If you could stray too far from genre convention, it's really easy to bleed over and into the realm of, say, Pop Team Epic, where you are just kind of off in La La Land and you're kind of your own subgenre at that point.
Attention. But, level 5 death. Thank goodness I'm
I'm still level 4. Like, yeah, like, I would consider Pop Team Epic its own thing. That's not really slice of life at all.
Yeah.
It's more like in the parody comedy, straight comedy genre. There are ways of making it work. Absolutely there are. If your characters are really fun and larger than life and we want to see a whole bunch of them, then you've fundamentally done something correct.
Mm-hmm.
And like, don't be afraid to experiment. This is a genre that has always been around and will always be around. And some will come and some will go. But, I think there's a lot of fertile soil here for future development.
I mean, so long as there's going to be cute high school girls doing cute things, then yes.
Okay, Ditaku, I think I have an idea. I think we might be sitting on a gold mine here. Hear me out.
Okay.
So, I'm proposing a slice of life anime in the vein of Azumanga Daioh by way of Plus Size Elf. Now, here's what I'm thinking. It's a group of high school girls who were friends in high school, who then went on and started working jobs and going to college and having careers, and they reunite years later as adults. And they start having, these, we need to make it a point for us to get together and stay being friends, even as adults. And you make a slice of life show for the next generation up. People in their late 20s going into their 30s kind of genre demographic. I think this is untapped potential right here.
I think you just described New Game.
Not familiar with that one.
It's a story about a young lady who is just breaking into becoming a video game developer, like an actual programmer.
Right.
And basically, it just so happens that the company that she was hired by only hires pretty girls. And so all of her coworkers are also pretty girls. And yeah, basically their manager slash hiring HR person is kind of a lecherous middle-aged woman. But it's played for laughs.
No, I imagine.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's I don't know, honestly. I it's been a while since I've seen it, but I thought it was pretty funny. But it's a very different type of I suppose you could argue it's slice of life, but it's a lot more like Dilbert-y, like work comedy. Oh
right.
no, oh no, I am late for school. That's so wacky and relatable.
Oh no, someone jammed the copy machine. That is also wacky and relatable in a different way. You know what? You know what? This needs to be said. The Dilbert animated series, it's really freaking good.
So
it's still topical to this day.
What you're saying is Dilbert is the best slice of life, and Narnia is the best isekai.
That's correct. Dilbert is the best slice of life. Checkmate Japan. Japan has not. Actually, this is a true story. Both Kage and I own the box set for the Dilbert animated series. Now you're going, oh, Snek, that kind of milquetoast, okay comic strip that like pokes fun at bad managers. Yeah, that one. It was actually a really big thing in the mid '90s for a lot of these comic strips to start getting animated series. Dilbert was no exception, and the thing is, it's really good. Like, there are some differences in the series versus the comic. Like, Dilbert's generally a little bit more of an optimist, and Dogbert kind of plays the role of the pessimist, whereas in the comic, they're both kind of pessimistic to the different degrees. But the thing is, even though the technology has changed, like they talk about fax machines and stuff, and generally that's not really still a thing unless you work government side. But like a lot of the comedy, a lot of the situations that Dilbert and company get into are very relatable to anyone who's ever worked in an office environment. Like, it's so topical to this day. It's timeless comedy because that office worker lifestyle is something that so many people go through. If you're thinking the comic isn't relatable, well, ask yourself, have you ever worked in an office environment akin to this? Because if you haven't, you're probably missing out on a lot of crucial context. And Jerry Seinfeld shows up as a giant smart-mouthed computer. What more do you people need?
I was about to say, one of the best episodes was, I want to say it was either the last or the second last episode where Wally is like getting angry with tech support and trying to get his new computer. And so he goes to the factory and he figures out that it's just nothing but this giant computer making other computers.
Yep, and it's CompuComp, the great and powerful, and the whole thing's a Wizard of Oz spoof, where you have Ashok, who wants experience but doesn't have any because he is just a lowly intern, and you also have Wally, and Wally wants his computer, and Dilbert's trying to help him, and I think who else was with them. Like, they basically form a mock version of Dorothy and Company from Wizard of Oz, and there's CompuComp, the great and powerful, who's voiced by Jerry Seinfeld, and they're like, oh, well, if you want your computer, you have to beat me in 3 events, and Dilbert is like beating him consistently, and he finally is like, okay, the 3rd event, it's badminton, and they're like, what? He's like, I like badminton, okay, and just because I'm a computer doesn't mean I don't like. It's great. Consistently fantastic from start to finish. Dutaku and I ran a marathon of it in like a week because we're just like, oh, dude, we got to see more. This is so good. So yes, Dilbert is the best slice of life anime, and Narnia is the best isekai. You have to try harder, Japan. You're lagging behind, is what we're saying.
I guess I have one final question for you there, Professor.
All right, fire away.
Ranch. Cool Ranch Doritos.
Oh, you always ask me the hard questions in life. And that, my friends, is going to be today's episode of the Amazing Tomodachi Bros podcast review / discussion show. Please go down below and like, comment, and subscribe if you have not. Leave a comment. What are some of your favorite slice of life shows? Have you heard of the ones we talked about? Are you excited for Plus Size Elf? And yes, why are you? So please go into great detail about which waifu is best waifu and why it's Olga. I'm so full of crap. I'm sorry.
You're right. Obviously, it's Leica, but I digress.
we all have our favorites. Tell us your favorite girl from Plus Size Elf. That'll be your comment assignment for the day, class. And be sure to tune in each and every week where I and other Tomo Bros gather here to discuss awesome anime, manga, and video games for your consideration. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Tomodachi Brothers Review Podcast, produced and recorded by the Hipster Snek, Ritaku, and Cog. Sound design and editing by executive producer Sean Taylor Brown with Cog Sound Engineering. Music written and performed by Sean Taylor Brown with Costas Vaz of Core Insight Studio on the drums. We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time.